Start. So when Blender starts, whether you like it or not, you get a cube. So what we'll do with this cube is learn our object and edit mode. If you guys played with Blender, I mean, you probably have seen this already. So we're just mostly recapping all this lesson if you follow those videos, okay? So the usual mistake that students have when you're starting with Blender is that it started this weird angle. So you're thinking the y-axis, which is the green, it looks like it's your left and right movement. Okay, but it's this x. So this is actually the front right here. So most start their project going like this, and you're actually looking at the side. All right. So if you don't want to get confused by that, click the number 1 on your numpad, or click your y right here to go to the front. Okay. So you need to be in the front viewport. So, or press number 1 on your numpad. It just goes like that. So even if you rotate your camera at this point, you can tell that this is the left and right movement, or horizontal movement, not the in and out. Okay. So let's take a look at our cube. So the keyboard shortcut, so we're going to start talking about those. To zoom in on a selected object or objects is your dot on your numpad. Or you can just scroll with your mouse, so it doesn't really matter, right? So let me turn on my screencast also so that you get to see the keys that I'm actually pressing. So N is to activate your side panel right here. All right, so when you have an object in Blender selected, you're operating in object mode. If you look at the upper left corner right here, we have a down pointing arrow or a chevron right there. If you click that, there's other options here. And the two important ones for now would be object mode and edit mode. These two modes right here. The keyboard shortcut to toggle between those is your tab key. So if I click tab, it switches to edit mode. If I click tab again, it switches to object mode. Keep in mind, this is only possible if your cursor is within the working window. If your working window is somewhere along any of these panels right here, the tab will not work. You can see my screencast right here. It says I hit tab 8 times, but it's not switching because look where my cursor is. It will only work if you're inside the working environment. Okay? Keep that in mind on all the keyboard shortcuts. Okay? You need to have your cursor in the working window. Okay, so object mode is we're working with the object as a whole, all right? So you can use your move, rotate, and scale tool, okay, as a whole. However, I'm going to switch back to my select tool here. If I switch to edit mode, all right, I can then operate in the sub level of the object. So instead of working as a with an object as a whole, we are now working in what makes up the object. So there's 3 components here on a polygon, right? And they're represented by these 3 icons up here. Okay, the first one is vertex or points. When you have this one here, you get to select 1 point, multiple points, or all of the points if you want to by pressing A, and you get to combine that with a transform tool, and you can move 1 sub-object at a time or multiple sub-object at a time. So the keyboard shortcut while you're in edit mode to be in point mode is number 1, but not the numpad, okay? We're talking about the alphanumeric numbers here, the 1 on the long keyboard, okay? 1 through 0. So the first one is point. The second one is line or edge. Okay, when you select that, you get to select the line. So basically the 2 points, minimum 2 points, you get a line. Okay, you combine multiple lines, you can create a polygon face, which is number 3. So this is number 2. Okay, and then if I press number 3, it switches to the third one, or polygon face select. Okay, so now we're selecting the entire surface, and you can add and subtract your selection by holding down shift to add. Okay, and then holding down Shift to also get rid of the selection. So let's say I go to point mode and I wanted to select this point. I hold down Shift and I can add to my selection. And with that, I can combine it with a transform tool and do some weird, funky stuff if you want to. Okay? So that, in a nutshell, is basically what working in edit mode. So if you're wondering how you can get those complex shape, okay, it's basically coming from the edit mode of a cube. So all of this, all right, is there a way you can make your mouse bigger? Oh, okay. So there you go. It on a Mac, so just remind me, I have to kind of like wiggle it and it gets bigger like this, okay? So I just have to keep wiggling it. All right, I will hover it multiple times and then kind of do that so you guys can see it, okay? So edit mode, keyboard shortcut is tab, okay? So from a cube, you can model a dinosaur, you can model an alien, you can model anything from a cube, okay? And it's coming from the edit mode side of it, okay? So what can we do with this? Well, depending on what you want to do. So let's say I want to make a pyramid. So I'm going to go to my select tool first. I can select all 4 points at the top. How do I know those are all my only selection? I can switch here in my wireframe mode so I can see which one I got selected and which one I don't have selected, okay? So I can also go with my solid mode and I can go to this one right here where it says transparency or X-ray mode, okay? So, okay, right here. And I can then see from behind what's not selected or selected. So you always need to kind of check that if you're not sure. So now if I wanted to scale this, so let's say make him smaller, I can use my scale tool or I could use my keyboard shortcut. So we're going to be introducing our keyboard shortcuts now, right? So to scale this, you press S and you can just move the mouse and then you can scale it bigger or smaller. So I'm going to make it like so. And if you're not too sure about if you are converging right there, you can zoom in or you can dolly forward right there and then press S again. So you don't have to do scaling all in one time. You can stop and then get closer, so on and so forth, right? Until, of course, your camera starts clipping. All right, so I just scaled those things, okay? Another way to do it, the long way or short way, depending on what you want to do, is switch to the edge mode here or press number 2. So you're selecting lines. So you would select 4 lines. That would be equivalent to just selecting 4 points. Okay, I'm gonna click undo. Okay, OS key is command key. Okay, this is OS key. When you see OS key, I'm hitting command. If you're in Windows, it would be control. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna press number 3 or go to my face selection right here. Okay, and I'm gonna select this and scale it. So that would be the same. So all those selections are the same. If you're just selecting all of those, everything around that face, it would be faster to select an edit mode. I mean a sub-object mode that would make your selection a lot faster. Okay, so that's basically what we do in edit mode regarding manipulating the sub-object or what makes up an object. So you can't really still do much with that, you know, because if you're just manipulating this with scaling and rotating, there's not much you can do. However, there's a new tool that we can introduce right now. It's called Extrude, okay? The keyboard shortcut to do Extrude is, you guessed it, it's E for extrusion, all right? So what it is, it's a extrude and transform right away, okay? It's usually the move tool. So if I select this top right here and I press E to extrude it and I move the mouse up, I get an extra one. Okay, so basically I extruded this cube now, it went up like so. Okay, but that's using a keyboard shortcut. So let me click undo. Okay, what I want to do here is use the extrude tool instead of using the keyboard shortcut. So right here is your extrude tool. If you're not sure which one of these, right? By the way, they won't show up like this not unless you're in the correct mode. Watch this one when I go to object mode. You see how those tools disappear? Because they're not. It's object-oriented programming here. If they're not active, you're not going to see the tool if they're not allowed. Okay, so if I click to edit mode, there it is. Okay, and then if you're not sure which one are the tools because they don't have a name, they do have a tooltip. So just hover your mouse on top, and then you will see the tool, like the bevel tool we used last week. Okay, so I'm going to go with extrude right here. So if I click that, it doesn't do the extrusion. However, you have this yellow with a plus little handle. Okay, so if I drag that one up, that would be the same thing as pressing E and moving my mouse. So at this point, I recommend you do this type of extrusion because it's more interactive and it's very visual, right? When you're just starting, this kind of is important. So if I select that one, I go like here. If I select that, I can extrude there. Select here, extrude. I can scale this. Press scale. Scale it over there. And then extrude again. Later on, when you're very familiar with 3D, you're not going to be using this tools much. You'll be using keyboard shortcut like crazy. I can select that. Okay. I'm going to press S to scale it. I'm going to press E. I'm going to extrude, but I don't want to move it. I'm going to right click to cancel it. I do want to press S to scale it. So you can do multiple things and not just kind of continually let me just see the yes, you can drag the toolbar so you can expand it. Okay, but like I said, that's kind of important in the beginning. Later on, you won't be. It's almost exclusive. You'll be using keyboard shortcut because it's so much faster. Okay, I don't know what this one is. Call this Gary's laser gun. Okay, so anyway, so that's your extrude tool. Okay, so let me start a new one here. All right, so let's go to edit mode again. Press tab. All right, well, let me turn on my screencast again because it doesn't work like that. Okay, so I'm gonna hit tab or go up here to switch. Okay, this time we're gonna use the knife tool. Okay, so the knife tool is exactly what you think it's gonna do. It's gonna cut. Okay, so however, the knife tool is a little bit more specific on its purpose. Okay, so the knife tool can create edge cuts. Okay, however, you need to press return or enter in order to stop the tool. Okay, so for this particular one, I will be pressing K for knife. Okay, so instead of the tool right here, we're going to use the keyboard shortcut. Okay, I'm going to press K. And as you can see, my cursor now changed to this little knife looking icon. And what's interesting is I can make a cut anywhere actually, but that's not recommended. Okay, when you do that, Blender, there's no way for it to kind of continue working from that particular cut. What you want to do when you use the knife tool is to land and snap into a particular line or point. You see how it's that kind of snapping when I go like so? So when I click on that line, I can then click and move my mouse and I get a cut. Not yet though. This is just a representation where that cut will be. So on this one, let's say I'm going to click here until it snaps. And then I click my mouse button again. And it still keeps going, as you can see right here. So I'm going to create kind of like a diamond shape on the side of this cube. And I'm going to snap to that point. After that, it's still active. However, if I press enter right now or return on a Mac, it stops the key and then all those becomes active. Okay, now I do have a cut right there. So if I press number 3 or go to face selection, number 3 or face selection over here, I can select this weird diamond shape that I made and I can combine that with an extrude tool. Okay, so that is the knife tool. Really easy to use. Okay, so we're going to be using both of these tools to finish our crate modeling, so kind of like game assets. So I will stop my recording here.